Leonad here to bring you the latest fantasy news, and it's going to be a doozy today. Some of you are going to unsubscribe, some of you are going to really like what I have to say, because I need to give my opinions on some controversial stories. Going ahead and jumping right into another quick addendum before we go ahead and dive into the news. I don't consider it news when a creator involved in a show claims their project is like the best thing ever and they're so excited for it. So just in the future, people who do, and I appreciate all of you, post in the Discord server Fantasy News channel. I love you. Thank you. But also, that's not really news. Of course they're going to hype their own projects. That's their job. But jumping into the news. Apparently, a open world Game of Thrones video game is in the works. Now, it is always referred to in these reports as a Game of Thrones video game, meaning they are likely pulling all of their inspiration from the TV show and actually going to reflect that rather than the books. The only reason I make this clarification is because the books have a bit more magic and they'll probably make the character models be based off the actors. This is the same studio that made Dark Souls, From Software, and I'm very excited to see what this will be. The fantasy video game market has been a little tidbit dry recently, and I'm excited for one of the most successful franchises in fantasy history to get their own landmark entry from an incredible game developer. I have nothing but high hopes about this, and I'm really excited.
Yes! That's awesome!
In other fantasy video game news, the new Borderlands 3 trailer was dropped, and it pretty much blew up the internet on a Kim Kardashian booty shot level. Everyone seems hyper excited. Doing my own voiceovers so I don't get copyright striked for the music. Shoot bang pow, black screen, boom bang spang. Small village with a Ferris wheel. They have movie theaters in the apocalypse. He has a weapon, jumping so high. Look at the windmill, look at the, oh, he's in a bad situation. Oh my god, so many arms. Alright, that's enough. Okay, done now. As Leonad, I've never actually played Borderlands. Should I get into it? You want me all to do some of that Twitch Borderlands content? I'll do that for you. I'll play Borderlands with y'all. In completely unrelated news, The Princess Bride, arguably the greatest romantic comedy of all time, and one of the greatest fantasy movies of all time, is in develop with Disney to be a theatrical musical. If this was handled by any other company, I'd be extremely skeptical, but Disney has a pretty solid record when it comes to musicals. Obviously, it's frickin' Disney. I should adjust my lighting. Is that better? Better? Great.
Darker.
I'll have the link in the description for this news story down below, but I'm not going to go in depth. 5 new cast members have been announced for the Game of Thrones prequel. I'm not going to get in depth with that because there's just always casting for every show, and I can't go over it all without this just being fantasy casting news. So yes, more Game of Thrones prequel casting, link down below if you want to check that out. And in, oh my god, what is this guy not being involved with? I love him so much. Michael B. Jordan, you're amazing. Michael B. Jordan is apparently going to star in the upcoming Methuselah adaptation over at Warner Bros. So yes, Michael B. Jordan not only has his foot in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the upcoming Black Leopard Red Wolf adaptations, Rocky, but now also Methuselah, and I think I heard Fast and Furious, don't quote me on that, but damn, this guy's having success right now, and he certainly earns it. He's amazing. And if you haven't seen his Hot Ones interview, go check that out as well. He seems like a really genuinely good guy. And in, why news? Why? A Lord of the Rings Gollum video game has been announced, and of all the things to make a Lord of the Rings video game about, what? But in all seriousness, this might actually be really great. Apparently it'll follow the years where Gollum is in possession of the ring. That could be pretty interesting, and I'm more or less just really curious about this one. And in, of course, because it's fantasy news and new adaptations are always going to be announced no matter what, Netflix has added another fantasy adaptation to their tidal wave coming down the road, which leads me to another theory we're going to get into in a minute, called The Letter for the King, a classic Dutch novel. And now we're transitioning into my Netflix new theory. Netflix, if you cannot tell, has about a third to half of all fantasy adaptations / sci-fi adaptations that are currently in the works. And what I'm thinking is they're going to throw everything at the wall and have a bunch of things fail, they're well aware of it, and just ride off the success of what sticks, most likely something like The Witcher, a better known IP, but they're just gonna do this, see what sticks, and from there just ride the wave of success and hope it reaches the A Song of Ice and Fire into Game of Thrones level of success for them. It's a little cynical, but it's probably true, and as a diehard fantasy fan, I do hope, even though they're doing this throw it all at the wall strategy, they are giving these incredible stories the love they deserve, and certainly some of them it does seem to be the case. And in the most controversial story I'm going to cover here today, Fonda Lee, the author behind the Green Bone saga, made some controversial statements on Twitter, which I will read now. With a picture showing how much shelf space is taken up by fantasy classics, she remarks, "This is what modern fantasy writers are up against. In my local Barnes & Noble, most authors are lucky to find a single copy of their book, super lucky if it's face out. There are 3.5 shelves for Tolkien, 1.5 for Jordan. Here's who we compete against for shelf space. Not each other, but dead guys." This has made waves in the fantasy community, probably more than she intended to, and the backlash I've seen has been rather harsh. People upset with this author referring to some of the people behind their favorite stories as dead guys. And it's very easy to lash out at her and just call her a bad, evil person for saying this. And I think she did phrase her argument pretty much the worst way possible. This is not how you want to refer to the people who influenced and inspired most of your peers as dead guys. Jordan and Tolkien are beloved, and Jordan's death is recent enough that that might actually still be a sensitive spot for some of his most diehard fans. That being said, I totally understand what she's saying. Shelf space in bookstores is one of the hardest things for an author to push for. There are so many books being written, and even getting a single copy of yours on those shelves is a huge achievement, and seeing someone who's not even alive, not producing new material, taking up so much space, I imagine can be disheartening. There's no way you'll ever have that much space, so why even try? So I get what she's saying, and I do honestly think more shelf space in these bookstores should be reserved for modern authors. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to a bookstore and just see various editions of Lord of the Rings again and again and again. Yes, there should be more space for new authors, absolutely. That being said though, we're in a capitalist world, and things like Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time, Brandon Sanderson, those are what sell the most, so it's what these stores are going to carry.
Show me the money!
As well as there's a gargantuan amount of Harry Potter space usually as well, but that's for some reason often pulled out from fantasy. I don't know. So my honest opinion here is she's not wrong, but there's no way to change the situation. You can't ask Barnes & Noble to do something that could arguably hurt their sales, and you're not necessarily the bad guy, but you certainly could have phrased what you said better. You shouldn't ever refer to these people who had impacts on millions of lives as just dead guys, in my opinion. So no, she's not wrong. Maybe rephrase your argument. Twitter's not the best way to communicate controversial opinions. History has proved that many times. And I don't think anyone here is necessarily the bad guy, but people all around need to calm down a little bit and be a bit nicer. That's my opinion on most controversial stories. Anyway, I'm Enir Glianad. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Fantasy News. If you want to contribute to Fantasy News, jump into the Discord link down below, go into the Fantasy News channel, and post whatever links you want to see covered here. I don't get to everything anymore because a lot is posted, and some of the stories I can't find enough sources on, but I do try to get to as much as possible. I do have a separate channel now as well for superhero news, and I think in the future I will do a separate segment called Superhero News that's done maybe once a month. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you've not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Honestly, you have no idea how much that support means to me. And have a good one, y'all. Peace!